So hello, dear UX designers and everybody in our community watching us around the world. Welcome to today's episode of our Deep Dive series, presenting the award-winning solutions of the UX Design Awards Spring 2023. My name is Aker Rudolf. I'm Head of Strategy at International Design Center Berlin and Director of the UX Design Awards. To everyone who is watching us now live on LinkedIn, just post your questions into the chat and we'll bring them into the Q&A right after the presentation of our team. And if you're on Zoom, please mute your mic and feel free to join the Q&A right after the session. So we're glad to welcome you today. You can actually watch us weekly, almost weekly, or twice every 2 weeks, for live sessions with award-winning designers and teams, and for inspiring conversations with our jury members. We hope to offer you valuable insights about design processes, new developments in our work field, and beyond that. So you can find our events on uxdesignawards.com, on LinkedIn and YouTube. And if you're working on great experiences, so consider entering the awards until the end of May. Who knows, we might be welcoming you for one of our winner talks in next fall. My guests today will walk us through the project ICC Integrated Control Center. It was recognized by the jury with a product award in this year's first competition season. The jury was particularly impressed by the calm and structured display of complex information that the ICC offers to pilots, making it easy to manage drone fleets. Besides, the jury underlined that the ICC represents a convincing business case and clearly shows the benefit it brings to its customers. I'm looking forward to know more about this complex use case from our guests. Today, I'll be joined by Rebecca Heinsohn. She is UX UI designer at WPS Workplace Solutions. It's an IT and software house in Germany. Professor Thomas Hofmann, general manager at USE, Institute of User Systems Engineering. It's a research institute connected to the University of Osnabrück in northwestern Germany. And Matthias Gronstedt, who is the managing director of HHLA Sky, the company and client of this solution that is specialized on drone operations for businesses, and especially those that are beyond the visual line of sight of the operators. So a warm welcome to all of you to today's deep dive, and we're looking forward to your presentation and your talk.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction.
Thank you.
So, shall we start? Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much being awarded with this prize. And yeah, we're happy to share our vision, our insights about how we created the integrated control center and what has been the challenges to create such a big, such a real good interface. And we had a lot of challenges. Rebecca and Thomas will guide you through. I will tell a little bit about HHLA Sky. HHLA Sky is a technology company. We are a technology provider. And we are the arm of the Hamburg Harbor Logistics AG. So the Hamburg Harbor Logistics AG is the third biggest container port in Europe. You pretty much know us from the news, because whenever economics is in the news, you see our cranes in the background, basically. So this is us. This is a container port. We are 100% daughter of the Hamburg Harbor Logistics AG, and we are founded in 2018. We are right now 60 plus full-time equivalents working on that, and we are having 4 product houses. So that means one is training and flight operations, One is the URS, also unmanned aerial systems, and the robotics, where are our drones being developed. Then the control center, which is the integrated control center, you will see, you have seen so far. And we have UTM technology, which is unmanned traffic management, which is basically the tower of unmanned drones or unmanned robots inside the public airspace. So this will be this is a little bit of future music, but it will be coming soon into Europe, that drones will fly somewhere else, and therefore you need to control, to coordinate them, and all that. So yeah, what is important about us? R&D is completely made in Germany. We already have clients in Germany, North America, Southeast Asia, and in the Caribbean. We have also drone operations for our mother company, for the Hamburg Harbor Logistics AG. And the most important thing, what I'm very proud of because of our developers, that the whole system you see here is cyber secured and certified by TÜV. And we are leading member of international or German use space and research projects inside this drone arena. Yeah, we have won the German Innovation Award, the Deutsche Innovationspreis, in 2019, which was given by the companies Accenture, EnBW, and the Wirtschaftswoche. That was kind of interesting because we have been benchmarked globally, which I was not knowing of. Therefore, I'm still proud of that. And yeah. Here you can see our cybersecurity certificate. So it's important to know that the drone is controlled by the control center we are talking about today, and all from the drone to inside the control center is cyber secured. So when you look at the map, this is Google Maps. So this is our area. If you can see here on the left side, if you can see my cursor, this is the Airbus airport where they're landing the planes, and this is all the harbor. And therefore you can understand it's a pretty complex kind of environment. And why is that also important, and why do we need to integrate an integrated control center? Because the Hamburg Harbor is official critical infrastructure of Germany, meaning if we are not working, Germany has not only a banana problem, it has a real spare part problem and supply chain problem. Therefore, we need a real good integrated control center to have more than 100 drones in parallel in the air one day, not today, to do different kind of missions, from inspections to cyber security, from inspection to surveillance and transporting drones from all around here in the harbor. And that is very important. And so I would like to show you this map, because you will see it now, how it looks like in our control center. Oh, no, go. So what we have been solving, and why is it so important? Yesterday we have done inspection with industrial climbers. They are climbing our container bridges or container cranes. They're climbing all of our infrastructure. Then one day we have done that with drones, having always a one-to-one connection between a pilot and a drone, and the guy sitting next to that, controlling the payload kind of streaming. Where do the drone needs to take a photo of? And with HHLA, we have now solved the problem of having always a one-to-one connection. We are always having now one operator in controlling many of drones, which gives them the complexity. You can understand if you can compare this with having one drone inside the control center, one operator inside the control center, then it's really, really complex. And this is the interface, how it looks like today. And yeah, what I can see here is the map I have shown you in Google before. This is the airport of Airbus, and this is the harbor. And so you can see how reduced the complexity of the interface is. And yeah, we are proud on having this huge kind of area, which is, I said, 47 square kilometers big. And this is our laboratory. You see the ships being real-time implemented. You see planes, you see weather. All of that is data you need inside your control when you are controlling the drone, the vision line, beyond vision line of sight. So you're sitting just in front of your computer and you're controlling more than 1 to 10 drones at a time. Thank you. Yeah, and that should be my last slide. Huge operating areas requires processes in the third dimension. What does it actually mean? It means that we are having the possibility of adding the third dimension, meaning the air, into our business processes. Why is that so important? At first, it reduces safety risk. Yeah, people are taken out of dangerous areas. Or when you look at transport, you are taking the traffic from the roads. It is CO2 free, and all these kind of advantages. So whenever you think about using drones, it's about quality, it's about efficiency, and it's about safety. These are the main kind of things, the main drivers for us being in that business. Now I'd like to hand over to Rebecca.
Yes, thanks. Yes, I want to tell you about a few problems we faced over the last few years and the ways we solved them, or at least tried to. Yes, when we started conducting the first workshops on new modules and features, we quickly realized that our usual methods didn't work that well. The future users could only give us rough information and ideas. They couldn't explain in detail what exactly they need and how they want to work. They just didn't know yet. So we had to change our approach. When we couldn't analyze workflows from our users, we looked to other industries to adapt from there. For example, we wanted to design the scheduling module, the module where users can plan flights, when, time and date, where, which pre-planned mission, and which drone. So we looked at how scheduling works at the Hamburg airport and how scheduling works in the logistics industry. Especially the visit of the Hamburg airport was quite interesting. They have an application for the management of their ground handling services. These are passenger buses, baggage trips, and so on. And first, they explained us how that application works, that they have fixed estimated times for the different tasks, and an AI in the background that does automatic scheduling, and so on. And afterwards, we visited the office where the people really work with it. They were getting calls and therefore adjusted the AI automated schedules and stuff like this. They were talking about what they like or dislike about the application. Of course, this was a great input for us, much more helpful than just asking some questions. And with this kind of research, we could do some preliminary work. So we went to the workshops with more concrete ideas, with a better basis for the discussion. And when we do those workshops, we do them in 2 steps. The first step is to understand the domain and tasks and develop the workflows. Here, we mainly work with text and process diagrams. Design elements and details are left out at this point. And as soon as the workflows are coordinated, we can go to the second step, the design of the UI. Here we develop, show, and discuss mock-ups to work out the final design. And the very important thing we do in these workshops is to define the MVP, the minimum viable product. An MVP only includes the most important functions. So we only take a rough look at the big picture for the module or feature, and also only roughly define possible feature extensions. This way, we can offer the users the possibility to test first and to gain experience. And after that, we can design the future extensions with more profound knowledge. So let's take a look at an example of this iterative procedure. And for this, I want to show you the very beginning of this project. The first module that was built, the multi-drone control. This module is made to supervise, not control, multiple flights at the same time. And here you can see one of the first mock-ups. At that time, the application was built for multi-touch tables. They are like huge tablets in form of a table. And that's why the elements are placed at the bottom of the screen. And as you can see, there are not many functions to be seen yet, just some basics. In contrast to the next step you see in this mockup. Here's a redesign which includes a few extensions of the module. And we changed the basic layout so that the lists and the map have a fixed size and there's less movement. Also, we needed to show some more information for the several flights, so we added the bottom bar. And finally, the current state of the module. What you can see is that the structure has basically remained the same. But again, we have some feature and information extensions and also priority changes. So we needed to adjust the bottom bar. So as you can see at this example, we are rethinking and redesigning a lot. And I think that's good for such projects because the exploration of the domain is an ongoing thing. Yes, and let's use this screen to also take a look on one of our design principles. In this module, in about 95%, I say, of the cases, the job in this module is to only supervise the flights once they are started. And in only 5% of the cases, an intervention by the pilot is needed. So the basic idea for this module was that the overall look should be very calm and unagitated. Because of that, we could use colors to communicate occurring problems in an easily noticeable way. This you can see here with a yellow message. Yes, that means the design principle we are following is to have a basically unconspicuous design and use eye-catching colors only to guide the user through the tasks. This doesn't make the application look fancy, but that's okay. Our goal is to create a UI that supports the user by solving their tasks. And while we're on the subject of design, let's take a closer look at the design team. When Matthias briefed us back then, he said that he didn't want a box standard look for the application, that it should visually stand out from others. So design systems like Google Material Design weren't an option for us. At that time, we were only a small team with a handful of people, but we said to ourselves, okay, we will do the whole design. Oh, wow, we had no idea what we had gotten ourselves into at this point. because not long after that, the development team started to grow and grow. And they asked for a style guide for standardized UI elements. So we quite quickly realized that we just weren't enough designers to handle all these tasks. But luckily, we had good connections to Thomas and the USE Institute. And even more luckily, they wanted to join the project. And they brought some very useful expertise, control center expertise in aviation, and style guide experience, something we had a gap because we mostly work with design systems. And also a new perspective due to the university context and the larger project field, industrial design. So, but how did we work together? One member of the USE team joined the development team because that's the way we do it. Design and development work very closely together. And so we learn from the USE and they from us. And I think that's how we ended up here a few years later. So you've gotten some rather specific insights by me. And Thomas will now look at the project and the associated problems and solutions in a broader way.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, so as you saw in the slides before from Rebecca and Matthias, this project was a very complex task to solve. So I would like to bring you a short glimpse into our ideas how to merge the theory from the academic side and teaching and our practice experience in the last years in this specific field. So this means I would like to talk just in a few minutes about use cases, the tools we used, and a more or less chaotic design process. But in this case, chaotic doesn't mean we hadn't any plan how to solve this problem, but to be agile, to design such a complex system with a lot of changes during the whole design process. So on the next slide, you can see, or I would like to mention how we try to bring this theory to life. So from my teaching of ergonomics and usability, of course, I'm teaching a lot of tools, how to bring products to life, as I mentioned here, which tools exist, to which norms are existing, and how designers should work in a real design process, not only at the university. But in this case, all these theories and this academic approach failed. So because this is not an academic process and not an standard designed design process, but a real life project with several teams, several experts. So our task was to bring all these people together and use or to develop an approach that is very close to the final product and to the timeline we had defined by Matthias. Thank you very much for this. It was a very tough timeline. We had to produce these final results, also to bring this product to usability testing. So on the next slide, you can see we have some experience in these, well, let's say a high risk field of interface development. So we did a lot of projects for the German air traffic control, for the German Aerospace Center, for some companies in the field of investment goods. But the main task for us was, as Rebecca mentioned before, how to get all this information we need from the possible users. So because the users did not exist at this time, because it was a totally new workspace and work environment. So for us, the main goal or the main task was to bring all these information theory from theory and from practice and from all these experts to an interface that really works. So for us, as I mentioned on the next slide, for us, the success of a complex development like this HHLA Sky project by ICC was depending to the flexibility of the whole team. So we had a lot of projects in the past where we struggled with the users or possible users and some programmers because they were thinking in a very straight way and a very academic way of developing. And this was totally different in this project and is still totally different because all the participants in the development team are very tolerant. They are open for new ideas. And as Rebecca mentioned, so there are still weekly meetings, daily meetings where we discuss all this stuff, not only the development, not only the use cases, but also the design approaches and all this stuff. So it's I would say 25 up to 30% of the development process is the communication between the experts. And on the other hand, for us as designers, it was very important to use tools the developers understand and the results of our design process were able to include. So as you see on the next slide, we used a huge amount of different tools. So in the moment, all the experts are talking about Figma and talking about the Adobe suite, but we used a lot of more of the tools. So we also used 3D programs and 3D software like Rhino to produce two-dimensional interfaces. We also used very simple tools like the Post-it Plus app for mobile phones, or traditional tools like Keynote for Apple to develop very fast ideas, to bring these ideas to mock-ups and look and feel prototypes to communicate with the developers. And this was for us one of the most important things to include in the design process, because without the communication to the other experts and of course to Matthias and his team at the HHLA, it wasn't be able to develop such an complex interface in such a short time. So on the next slide, I would like to come back to the question or the description Matthias said in the beginning. So the system was not only an interface and it was not only a front-end development, but it was the design of a whole complex system. So not only the software was developed, but we also had the task, the whole team, designing this interface, the interaction, and the functionality to hardware. So it was not only the screens you saw before, but also we had the task to get in contact with the drones itself. And we also designed the drones. This was, I think, the most complex part in this project, how to bring these physical and virtual worlds together. In almost 3 years, Matthias was able to build up not only the so-called startup HHLA Sky, but also working software and working hardware to a state of development that's just, for me, it's very impressive. So it's, I think at this point of the development, it's really, really amazing work the HHLA Sky developed with us. So maybe the last slide. One thing Rebecca mentioned before about the topic decoration and fanciness. if you develop a system for professional users as the ICC, you're always in the conflict between, let's call it sexiness, and reduced interface for professional users. So this was one interesting point. How far can we go in the development process? So how many really new GUI interfaces and GUI elements we can develop or establish, and how close does we have to be at the more or less traditional users or users from professional context? So of course, we watched a lot of science fiction movies and developed a lot of ideas that are very fancy, but because of the design process and the usability process and the development, we reduced the sexiness of this interface to absolutely functional user interface. So for us, it wasn't the idea to design a consumer product, but a product for professional users. And we knew we will be able to teach the users in the future. It's so the task was not to develop a very intuitive user interface, but a functional interface that is usable, but also very interesting to work with. So, and this was interesting, but for us, it wasn't the first time to design user interfaces for professional users. Maybe this was a reason why Matthias asked us to be part in this project. And yeah, finally, the UX Design Awards was the same opinion that this looks professional, but also remarkable to get this fantastic award. So for us, yeah, we are very grateful to got this award and be awarded by your jury. And yeah, so we posted a lot of pictures and impressions of this product to LinkedIn, and the UX Design Award posted a lot of information about this. But yeah, if you would like to know more, just contact Matthias and he can give you more insights to this project.
And
yeah,
I would like to summarize. So this is a mission critical interface. So that means there are real machines flying out there, not be seen by the operator, only on the interface. So they are doing inspections of bridges, of container cranes, of complex infrastructures. They are doing surveillance of their environmental monitoring kind of drones. And in the future, we will have transport drones inside the industries. And therefore, it needs to be also be handled by the guy who is sitting in front of it if something goes wrong. So he does not need to have to look at the buttons. Where is the button I have to stop the drone for? So this is very important to understand. It's a mission critical interface. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Rebecca, maybe you can stop the presentation so we can see you. Great, thanks a lot. Fascinating project and a kind of special project because, as you said, there is not, so you didn't know the use case beforehand and what users would need. So we can talk a little bit about this. But beforehand, let me ask you a little bit, can you give our viewers the time frame of this project? How long did it take for research, development of MVP, and of the hardware? Because you mentioned also hardware, so was it developed in parallel? How long did it take?
Yeah.
How large is the team we're talking about here?
The designer team or the team at all?
Depends on
oh yeah, I mean,
actually to give us a little bit more insight.
Okay, we are around 80 plus people working on that. So that means we have software, embedded software developers, hardware, microelectronics developers. We have 3D designers to do the construction of the drones. And then we have the software developers. Then we have certification. Not to forget that all the systems need to be certified by a third body according to cybersecurity, according to safety approaches or safety requirements and all that. So yeah, and we are having just 6 salespeople out of 80. So yeah, it's pretty tough, pretty tough schedule for all of us, and for me to organize so many different kind of skills, so many different kind of development teams and things like that. So, but overall, we can say bringing it to that kind of stage, it took us 3 years.
Right, so that's 3 years for research, development, and design of the MVP. And did all of you, Thomas, Rebecca, as external partners come on board at the same time? Or how did this process develop? Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so as Rebecca mentioned before, the WPS was involved first in the early beginning of this project. And I think it was just a few months after starting the design process, we were asked to join the team and be part of the development process. So we started, both of us, we started very early in the project. I think during a time when the HHLA just started to develop the final idea of this project. For us, it was a very perfect situation, totally different to a lot of design projects we were asked in the past. So sometimes, especially the product designers, will be asked very late in a development process just to make the shape a little bit nicer. This is one thing we teach our students, that this is not a perfect situation when you ask in the end. But Matthias and Rebecca asked us very early, so there was a lot of time and possibilities to design and to influence the direction.
Maybe if you like to, can we show the video of the control center again? Maybe that's kind of interesting how it works and things like that. I'm not sure.
Do you have it available? I mean, we don't have sound at the moment for this transmission, but maybe if you're interested, of course, the film is on the UX Design Awards website. Or would you like to show it right now?
I'm fine. I mean, I've seen some comments.
But maybe as we are still here, just to frame this again for everybody who's out there, also for better understanding. So this is an in-house solution. It's been a whole team, a whole company has been built to create this, and the use case is actually application in the port of Hamburg city. Yeah. Or is there also a further business opportunity on the horizon, which is to scale this product and to offer this as a service to other partners, external clients as well?
Yes, I mean, I'm always saying, yes, we are born in the harbor, which is good because we are critical infrastructure. We have higher requirements on cybersecurity, on work safety, on everything you can think of. And therefore, we have been able to develop a product. This is a product, it's not an MVP anymore. And this product is being sold globally, and that is where it's made for. So yeah, because right in the beginning, I saw the potential of this market, not even internally. Yeah, I saw it basically globally, and it is huge, and the demand is there. And therefore, yes, we are selling it globally, and it's a product, it's available, and it can be bought.
And I understand that the special thing is, and I'll stay just for a little bit on the product and on the wider picture here, that the special thing about this solution is that it's web-based. So it can actually be operated from the headquarters, where you have the trained staff and you have the hardware that's running for the software, especially the people, the know-how. But then the drones themselves can be deployed in any part of the world, actually. So how complex is this if you say you would like to map a construction site in Singapore, for instance? Can you give us an idea about this?
Yeah, this is possible. So basically, the drone is standing there. A construction guy needs to switch it on, like if you switch on your car, and that's it. The rest is done electronically from Germany, for example, and then you can watch the video streaming, which has been sent from Singapore to Hamburg, via the mobile network, via the internet into the cloud, and then out of the cloud into your own network of your company. Yeah, the video streaming will show you where the cameras are looking at. And then you can take pictures, you can take movies, whatever kind of payload you're having under the drone. And you can also view in parallel the picture of the first person view camera where the drone is flying. So, and this is to understand, yeah, this can be done in different kind of locations globally at the same time. So you are basically able to control 100 drones in the same time from one central point. That means usually one controller or one operator in the control center can operate up to 10 kind of drones. That's what we experience right now, and not more, because the cognitive load is just too high. But actually, it's 10 times cheaper than running out with a drone being remote controlled.
So, but you need to map the area first for to plan the flight paths of the drone, or is this something that there is a technology in the back end that is actually doing this on the run? Because yeah, also the solution is about having autonomous fleet of drones that are operated outside the line of sight of an operator.
Yeah.
Or is this something that you want to develop for the future?
No, it's already there. So that means you can if we have a construction site in Singapore, you can map out your kind of missions you want to fly with the drone on the site, and then it will be uploaded from Hamburg down to Singapore on the drone, and then the drone flies it autonomously. But the important thing is that nobody in the world would accept like autonomous robots flying around. So that means what people are expecting is somebody can push the emergency button, somebody can help if something goes wrong, and that is what the operator in the control centers are doing. So you can map out, or you can take photos, you can take movies, and with that photos, you are doing a 3D digital twin, for example, of the whole construction site.
Understood. So now more back to the user research questions. Rebecca, Thomas, you said beforehand you didn't know the use case really, because this kind of drone operation in masses of products, of drones didn't exist before, doesn't exist. So how did you go about this problem? How did you actually understand what the challenges of the users could be? How did you map them? Which kind of methods, maybe protocols, did you use to start off? So
it's somehow I told a little bit about that. We first just tried to learn from other industries, and then it was a lot of thinking, going really deep and trying to think like the users. Then, yes, I told about the MVPs. And once you have them, the users are able to give feedback. And working with MVPs allowed them to see what they need or what doesn't work for them. This was very helpful, and this is why we redesign so much, because we always find out new things we didn't know before, or we find more needs the users have. So it's a little bit try and error sometimes.
And I think what was very useful in this project was the experience of designing air traffic controller interface in the past. So as Matthias mentioned, so there's a difference between using a remote control and controlling an RC plane or controlling one drone. And on the other side, checking and controlling amount of flights with real human inside. So so it was for us not that important to have this experiences and background of the existing drone pilots, but more of air traffic controllers and people who are in charge of controlling a lot of information to keep a business running. So so a lot of research and a lot of experience we brought into this project was our experience from the air traffic control area. So because same as Matthias mentioned, so there is a amount of workload you can manage by yourself as a air traffic controller, as same as a drone controller. So because of a lot of research and a lot of scientific work we did in the last 10 years for this field, we brought into this drone control project. And I think this helped us much to understand the future work of the people. While the existing drone pilots were not that able in all of our questions to imagine how their work will change in the future. So because this workplace didn't exist, so there was a lot of research and a lot of trial and error, as Rebecca said, how to bring this possible workspace to life.
And how did you actually evaluate the feedbacks from users? That sounds much more like qualitative feedback and of course not quantitative. Can you tell us a little bit more about the methods you used?
Yeah, I mean, I can start and then Rebecca maybe. So we had very, very early in our project, we had drone pilots. And we were developing them into this kind of usage, and they were still every time, every week, every second week we are delivering two new kind of designs, new kind of things, because they also learn. Then when I used to be a normal drone pilot or an RC pilot. Now I'm going into this area with the control center, and I need this, I need that. So this is how we have been able, as we had our own drone pilots, growing with the system, giving us feedback. Maybe Rebecca, you want to add something?
Yes, we had something like look over your shoulders meetings where one user got a task for a new module or feature, and we watched this person do it. And the user had to speak out loud what he or she thinks and why he or she is doing it this way. And this helped us a lot to find out what works as designed and what doesn't.
And of course, as Thomas said, you already had a framework of similar suits, workplace solutions, and that probably helped a lot. So you also said this a lot about showing the relevant information at the right moment in the workflow. So this is, can you tell us a few examples? What are the key points there?
Okay, I will start quickly on that. Usually, you know, when you think about technical applications, you have everything on the screen, everything in one picture. 1,000 buttons, 15,000 functionalities. For example, if you I don't know if you guys are using Unreal Engine. It's a nightmare, you know. I think it probably takes you 1 year to learn how to handle that stuff. So, and in the drone arena, there's Mission Planner, which is a planning tool for drones. So every button is in the same interface, and that drives you nuts. So that means you need to be a high sophisticated engineer to use the software, and that instead is not what I want, because these guys needs to make decisions on the data which is relevant. So we have to reduce, and this is what was my initial vision, to reduce the interfaces down to the minimum of what is needed in that workflow task and things like that. So concentrate on failures, make the failures visible, make the guy taking a decision and then intervene into the systems. That's all.
Yes, we try to separate everything in workplaces and tasks so that we offer those tools the user really needs in this moment. And I think maybe this was a good thing, so that we could reduce the information so that you only see what you need and not more.
Yeah.
Is there, Thomas, please.
Yeah, no, I just make a remark. That's yeah, that's it. So I just had a discussion in the morning about the task for user interface design in the future, especially in very complex areas or complex fields. And I told the auditorium that the task is not to design as much as possible, but to reduce the information to amount of capable information, and to reduce all the decoration you maybe have in mind when you think about consumer user interfaces. So the task for us is, where can we reduce more than the day before? So this is as Matthias said, so you have interfaces with a lot of information, and if you are unlucky, you have some nerds doing interface, and they are very proud to bring all the information the machine gives into the user interface. But this is the totally wrong way, because you don't have the user in mind, but only the technology. And this is a very old school, and I would say an 80s approach to design interfaces. And this is one thing we didn't want to bring to the users, especially in this field of use.
So what did you have a breakthrough moment? Was there something that made you realize, now it's there? This is the breakthrough insight, the invention or the achievement that's brought this, made you feel this is the right moment, now we have nailed it?
I have my personal, I think everybody of us has this personal thing. For me, it was the point when we designed in the planning module, we have designed a bar in the bottom, which is giving you the heights of the drone flights, which giving you the speeds of the drone flights, and that thing is dynamic, meaning if you change your route on the map, that thing shrinks or expands and things like that. And that was such a monster to be programmed. You can't believe that, to have it dynamically according to something is painted and having it dynamically in a chart. When we managed to do that, I was clear. Now we have it. Now we can do everything what we want.
Rebecca, what was your breakthrough moment?
I wasn't sure first, but now that Matthias told it, I feel kind of like the same, because first we did the planning similar to the way all the others did. And then we found out this is not a very good way to do it. So let's do it different. And I think this was kind of like the first moment we did it something that's special, or where we had a comparison to others, and that was very fancy. But also when we had, I think, the planning, the scheduling, and the control. So you had the whole process: first planning, then scheduling, and then control, because we started with the control module and then the other step by step. And that was the first time we had the whole process. That was nice.
Yeah, so for me it was when we got the feedback from the users that it works, that they feel well using the interface and trying to control drones. So for me as a teacher and a researcher in this field, it's always the best moment when you reached your aim that the user feels well using this product. So for a physical product, it's always the moment when you handle the product to the user or possible user, and they say, oh, it works. Oh, I know how to use this product. And so it was the same with this interface for the drone pilots and for the planners and all the experts we designed this product for. So it was not only one moment, but it was whenever we showed the product and the interface to the several users, and they feedback to us, oh, nice, yes. It looks totally different than I had in mind, but it seems you had a lot of good ideas to bring this into one graphical user interface.
Wonderful. And the jury was on the same path with you and agreed that it was a great solution. And I wish you all the best for further rollout on the market and further scaling of this great product. And of course, I understand this is a work in progress, so it will be further developed as you go and as the challenges grow. So dear Rebecca, Thomas, and Matthias, thank you very much for your presentation and your insights and answers. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And again, lots of success for the next steps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks to everybody
Bye-bye.
for joining us. If you missed anything, the recording will be on LinkedIn and the website right away. And of course, please do join us for our next events. Actually, our next talent track with an international team of students from Umeå Institute of Design in Sweden that won a new talent award for smart cooking concepts for migrant workers that actually aims to connect people across long distances as they cook, is up next week, April 12th at 4 p.m. UTC. So you can register on LinkedIn on our website for this next event. And of course, on our website, you can learn the awards and other winners as well. So mark your calendar, and wherever you are, have a wonderful day, evening, morning, afternoon, and hopefully see you very soon again. Bye-bye.
Bye.